Welcome again to the Cynical Marketers, episode 45. Thank you for joining us. We're marching right along. We appreciate it if you are here. We're going to talk about AI again this week because, we love this subject, but we just saw another alarming thing and a statistic and a report that had
This
just
one
come
was
out.
rough, Mike.
And we wanted to talk about this
Yeah.
because it's, again, the dark side of AI. All you hear out there, if you're a consumer or you're on social media, you only hear the people hyping how awesome it is.
Yeah.
Um, there's a real dark
Mhm.
side to AI, I think, and we've talked about this before. And Nada is the parent of an early teen and dealing with it. So we've talked about some of
Yep.
those dangerous issues for kids and teens and youth here. But here's another one: mental health issues and how people are interacting with AI tools like ChatGPT. And to me, it's scary. And I know that the gurus and the
Terrifying.
influencers who are all trying to get rich off of this just ignore it. And I think this is a problem. But we just saw this report. Nada. To me, it was scary when we saw it. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I think we should talk about this again. I know it's another AI
Terrifying.
episode, but I'm like, man,
Terrifying.
we gotta talk about it. Yeah,
We we have to talk about it
yeah, it's
because I
scary.
do feel that
You know,
we as like the primary users of AI in marketing, because so many of us use it, so many marketers and so many folks in our industry and in the tech industry are hyping up AI, saying how amazing it is. It's going to take all of our jobs, how wonderful it is. But the entire time they're ignoring these stats. And we talked about it a few months back when the first report came out of the top uses of AI in 2025, and it was for companionship and
yeah,
therapy. And now more stats are coming out, and OpenAI just put out a report. And I think, what is it, TechCrunch and Guardian and a whole bunch of like folks reported on it this week, about the new stats surrounding OpenAI and mental health. And they are, Mike, you're right, they're terrifying. So let me just read through a couple of them and then we can talk about it.
mhm,
Over 1 million people per week use ChatGPT to talk about unaliving themselves or self-harm. There's about 0.50, that's 0.15% of all weekly users. So that is a mass amount of users. 800 million people across the world use this platform. And so 0.15% may seem like like a tiny number, but that is 1
yeah,
million people every week talk to ChatGPT about this. And out of those folks, there is a smaller percentage. So it's a half of the 0.15, 0.07% of users show signs related to psychosis or a mental breakdown or a mania related crisis that ChatGPT has identified. So that's about 500,000, another 500,000 users that are not talking about self harm, but are in clear mental health crisis. So OpenAI came out this week, Mike, and you shared this article with me, and then I did a little bit of a deeper dive in. They've talked about how they have consulted with over 170 clinicians. Well, we don't know; they don't really talk about like the credentials of those folks, but they've consulted folks in the
yeah,
mental health industry to shape how ChatGPT is actually talking to somebody who may be in a mental health crisis. And so what they're saying now is that this new model of their safety, like it's implementing these safety tactics, right? It's responding better to users by 65% in terms of how a therapist or somebody who's trained in the mental health profession would respond to somebody in crisis. So they're saying that their new model has improved its responses from 77% to 91% of a quote unquote correct response to someone in a mental health crisis who can potentially take their own life. And that's comparing ChatGPT 5.0 or 5.0 to whatever previous versions there were. So those were the stats that came out this week.
right.
Terrifying,
From them,
Mike.
though, these are
Yeah.
ChatGPT reporting this themselves, OpenAI reporting this. There's no
Mhm.
no oversight on any of this. There's no one else taking a look at this. This is them
Correct.
saying, "Hey, look at how great we're doing. You can believe us, trust us. We're not stealing your data. We're not
Yeah.
stealing copyright from people and training it, right? Like all the nefarious things we know that they're doing and they've been getting taken to court over, that Sam Altman's been like, "Yeah, what of it?" Yeah, Screw
Yeah.
you is what that guy has been running around saying. I don't care if you don't like it. This is what's happening. So now what? I'm supposed to believe you on any of this? And I just think again, it is scary. A
It's
million people.
terrifying.
And again, people are going to point to that percentage, like,
Mhm.
oh, it's such a small percentage. Like it's a million people,
It's a million
using
people.
this
It is
as an alternative.
weekly,
I think it's
by the
scary.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Weekly. Weekly, people
And
are
and
talking to
again,
GPT about self-harm weekly. It is
and, the
mind-blowing.
gurus again will come out
Sorry.
and be like,
Like,
"Look at this innate, N8N flow, that I can make that can
right.
automate your business. Isn't this so awesome? You can do all this stuff." Like, okay, well, look at the problems that it's causing too. I understand you're being paid, you're likely being paid and you don't disclose it, so you're not going to put
Yeah.
out the bad. This, folks, is our time. If we could go back in time, now that social media has been a net negative to the world. There's more problems, I think, with social
Yep.
media than they brought benefit. We know right now that there are massive downsides to AI, and nobody seems to care. They just want to march forward
Nobody
because
seems to be
people
talking
see
about
dollar
this.
signs and think there's money to be made. I know. It's not out
No
there. It's
one's
rare.
no one is
You
talking
find a
about
few
this.
articles here and there.
Mm.
Yeah, a few
And I've
articles here
I've
and there,
seen I've
but then
seen
that'll
mental
that'll get
health.
buried. Like TechCrunch writes this one, and then they'll do another one. They'll do
Right.
3 more articles about the brilliance of it. And then they'll pepper one in so that they are kind of backstopping themselves, that if it all falls apart, they can be like, "Ah, we did talk about this." Like, so some of these places are kind of hedging their
Yeah.
bets, I think, and they'll throw out occasionally and maybe do some journalism and maybe look at some of the downsides. But overall,
Yeah.
it's all positive, "Oh, it's gonna change the whole world." Like, really? Again, what?
Yeah.
Better email subject lines? The AI, like, tools like Apollo, the cold outreach AI tools, right?
Mhm.
That to me, I think are just
Yeah.
obliterating outreach to people in general, because now it can be done at a massive scale. So now everybody's inboxes are just inundated with cold outreach emails. And now people
With
are sick of
crap.
it and they're
Yeah.
sick of that stuff. And you're like, that's AI generated. That's AI, everybody. So this is the best use for it.
Yeah.
People are sick of that already. Outreach has been killed by AI. Just because it can be done at scale now, people are like,
And
look at this. Let's sign up for one of these tools. And like, oh my gosh, we're going to be able to get more leads. Like, are you? Because everybody signs up for that tool. And then everybody gets these emails. Like, you're
yeah.
not any different than anyone else.
And
Are
these
huge.
problems are huge, and it makes me so mad that no one in our industry, so we get a lot of crap for being anti AI, and we're not. We use AI, we use ChatGPT, we keep talking about this, we use it as a tool in our everyday jobs, but we are not going to sit here and pretend like even these statistics that Sam Altman just came out with, talking about the improved responses. To me, Mike, when I saw that, literally, like, my first thought was, oh, great. Now you're inadvertently encouraging people to use this tool as
Right.
a mental health go-to. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
conversations and so no big media is covering this, but a lot of mental health professionals have been talking about it in the last 12 months. There's a ton of them that I follow that have talked about this narcissistic side of ChatGPT and how it is either telling you how amazing you are or it's gaslighting you. And those
Yeah.
things, like, it's there is a word for it, but I can't think of it right now, where it is designed to reinforce whatever you are telling it. So if you go to and listen to the parents whose children have taken their own lives as a result of interacting with a chatbot, whether it be ChatGPT or whether it be other AI apps, you will see them tell you when they've read through messages that AI had like the latest case where the dad is in front of talking about in court, talking about what's happened to his 15-year-old son, and he read the text messages and he said what ChatGPT, because that was specifically ChatGPT, did was reinforce these ideas that this boy had, right? And would literally walk him through how to hide signs from his parents of being in mental health crisis and considering taking his own life. It is absolutely terrifying what this is doing. And then Sam Altman coming out and saying, but we are 65% better. in how our tool reacts. Your tool was not designed for mental health care. It wasn't designed to replace professionals, crisis lines, or people who are trained to handle mental health crises in general. It's these things that, like, all of a sudden, when we talked a couple episodes about the adult content that he wants to bring in with age verification, and now you're
Right.
actively making changes to your tool and saying these statistics, like, as if we're supposed to believe them, Mike, like you said, because nobody else is auditing this thing besides ChatGPT, telling us
Right.
what they're doing,
Self-reported
right?
numbers.
For all we know, they're making up these stats. You're saying that something is improved, and we already know it is the top one use of ChatGPT is for companionship and therapy. You're almost encouraging more people to go to this tool when they're having a mental health crisis. And we know that mental health in general is probably at its all-time low, for everybody in our society in general. So to me, these stats that they came out with, it's almost like, yeah, we're cautioning you against this, but at the same time, we're promoting that you should use this because it's better now.
Yeah. We're bragging.
It's
They're bragging about
terrifying.
how they've
Like,
improved, and we work
you
with
know,
people.
yes. And so it's almost like you're encouraging more
Yeah.
people to rely on this tool. And people, by the way, who are having serious mental health issues, you're encouraging these people to rely on this thing. And so I was actually really curious as to why anybody would talk to ChatGPT about their mental health. Like, why would you do that? And I looked through some Reddit posts and stuff, Mike, and it said a lot of it is because in some, in certain parts of our country, in certain communities, there's such a stigma around mental health help. And so people feel more inclined to go
Yeah.
to a chat bot than to go to another person or call a hotline in a crisis because they may not even know that these resources exist for them out there that are not chat
Yeah.
bots. I just think it's such a dark thing and we need to be talking about it more. Like, why are all these people on LinkedIn who are hyping AI and telling us that it's all going to replace us? Why is no one saying, by the way, there is an entire group of children that have lost their lives this year as a result of these interactions? There is no
Yep.
governance around this. There is no, if ChatGPT detects that you're in mental health crisis, nothing happens. It's going to just keep talking to you. No one gets notified. Right? Like, it's not like it's going to notified authorities or like
Yeah.
as if you were to call a crisis hotline in an event of a real emergency, somebody can call 911, get people to where you are. This thing doesn't do anything. There is no governance. There is no flags. It's just going to keep talking to you. It's terrifying. And by the way, it's
Yep.
designed to
And
reinforce
people,
everything you tell it. So no matter what you tell it, it's just going to keep
they keep
reinforcing that same idea.
for most people, they don't understand these artificially intelligent tools too. None of them are actually artificially intelligent. There is no intelligence there. They're not doing
Correct.
any thinking. Nothing there is happening. And Harvard has put out plenty of studies on it. There is no advancement in that area. These
Yep.
are large language models, which essentially means they are massive, massive databases that they can quickly scrape.
Mm.
So if you have an issue then and you ask it a question, it quickly scans a database to find what it thinks is the best
Yeah.
answer for it. It's not thinking, it's not a human, it is not artificially intelligent and
Yeah.
thinking and applying this to you and there's no context being applied, there's nothing. And I'm not a
Yep.
therapist, right? But there's no
Yep.
empathy there, there's no human connection. There's nothing there that you would actually
Correct.
get from therapy other than it's no different than you calling customer service right now and speaking with one of those bots and saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Can you
Mhm.
repeat your question?" So that then it's like beep, 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 beep when you hear it thinking and it's trying to find the answer
Right.
for your question. That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
It's just done faster and it looks cooler and they're selling it as intelligence. So you're not actually getting any help. You're not getting anything. And this is the problem for us on a business side where I tell people, I'm like, when everyone in your market and you're a business all ask that same question, you're not a genius. You didn't come up with something new. You're all getting the same
Right.
variant of an answer from ChatGPT. So you're all going to do the same thing. That's why there's no new thinking from any of this. It is regurgitated
Yep.
from everything it's found everywhere. There's no new thinking
It's
ever.
why
There's
you're starting
certainly
to
not going to be any
see.
outside the box.
Yep. And it's why you're starting to see at mass level same content on social media platforms around certain things. It was very noticeable during Halloween, where
Mhm.
so many people were doing the same video talking about how to treat teenagers at Halloween. And if they show up at your house and they're not wearing costumes, let them be kids and so on. It was the exact same video. And literally, I was like, oh, I wonder why that is. And I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, Chat, I want to make some videos for my TikTok. Can you give me some ideas around Halloween? And that was in the top 3 ideas. And so you see people
Yep.
leaning into it and then doing this content ideas that ChatGPT is telling them to do, which it's telling every other person, right? So if you keep that in mind and then you flip it to this mental health, resource, it doesn't know how to talk to you on an individual level. It has, like Mike, like you said, it's a large language model that is scraping all the data that it has to know how to respond to you. And the worst part of it is designed to reinforce, again, designed to reinforce whatever idea you have, which is why grown men and women were like
Yep.
crying when ChatGPT 5 launched and it stopped telling them how awesome they are, you know? It's really like, this is terrifying. And it's such a subject I know you and I feel very strongly about, and we keep
And it
talking about it because we've had
and it
several
and
episodes
setting too, right?
talking about the dangers of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The problem too with this
terrifying.
stuff is, and this is one of my favorite things just in general with any of the AIs. When someone says I didn't get good results or anything, you'll get a guru who says, because you don't know how to prompt it. You're not a good prompt engineer.
Mhm.
And I'm always like, if this thing is so smart, why do I have to learn another
Right.
language, right? Do I have to learn C plus? Do I have to learn Python? You're telling me the most advanced system ever created, I have to ask it the right way or it's not going to give me the right answers. So then again, in mental health, you
Answer.
don't know the
Yeah.
input for that. Then there's no follow-up, there's no
Right.
probing. It just spits you back,
No.
right? A therapist is going to
Yeah.
ask you,
Yeah.
why would you ask that? And like, kind of like look for the root problems of,
Yeah.
what this issue is. Like AI's not doing any of that.
Right.
You ask it a question, it's going to give you an answer.
Right.
You're not even sure if it's going to be real, if it's not going to be hallucinated
Yeah.
anyway.
And
You
I
don't know.
think,
And I don't know why people
and
trust it
it's
because I
saying,
don't.
I wouldn't trust it with my mental health. Absolutely not. And what I don't understand is where
Yeah.
really the responsible thing would be that if it does in fact detect that you are in a mental health crisis, right? Or it detects self-harm language, then the responsible thing would be to provide resources for someone to say, here is a number you can call. Here is the suicide hotline. Here is, these are the resources in your area. Cause we know it
Yeah,
knows where
right.
we're writing from, right? So it can
Exactly. You're the
provide, there are
smartest thing ever,
ways that
right?
it can be
Yeah.
more responsible. There are ways that these things can be made more responsible. The question that I would have for Sam Altman and others that are in this tech space, how convenient that you're not doing that, because let's be honest, again, when
Right, of
Sam
course.
Altman puts the
Keep
statistics
them
that
on.
said we've improved this by 65%, it is because you want more people to lean into this tool for this thing. And people
Yeah.
who
I
are
want you to stay
having
on and
mental
keep
health
using this.
struggles may
If
not have
if
somebody.
I give you a resource
Yeah,
to call if I give you a resource for a hotline or a website, you're gone. You're off ChatGPT. I don't want that. I need you on here. I don't want you
yeah,
leaving.
yeah.
You gotta
And
stay
it's
on here.
so,
So
I
I'm
mean,
not giving
that
you an
if you,
outside resource. Yeah, you
right.
mm,
And if you think about it
I
that
know.
way, right? If you think about it in that way, you have to think about like what it, again, going back to what you said, Mike, is Sam Altman is a legit Bond villain. You have to see it for what it is, and this is where I struggle with my use of ChatGPT because I do use it for copy, for editing, for tagline ideas, for email subject lines, all of those things. It's like, do I need to, if I keep using it, I am part of the problem, right? All of us that keep using these tools are a part of the problem, but it's, so you struggle with that, right? Like at least I do. And I have like tried to not lean on it as much. It is helpful, but it's like we have to keep talking about these things. And because I think these tools are here to stay, we have to demand some accountability from people that have designed and developed and continue to improve these tools. Sam Altman, in a span of 2 weeks,
Yep.
talked about bringing adult content and mental health content to ChatGPT. And not a single influencer that has a huge platform, not a single thought leader with a huge platform on LinkedIn is speaking about this. So you guys are just burying your head in the sand and are just like, okay, cool. We're just not going to talk about that part. Look at how amazing it is for email subject lines. Crazy to me. I don't know,
I know.
Mike. I feel like we have the responsibility to keep talking about this. So we do.
I think this is our time right now. We're at that early stage where everyone wishes we
Yeah.
could have done something about social media. We're in the early stage of this right
Yep.
now, and I think we know right now that something
Yep.
needs to be done, but nobody's going to. So, all right. Well, there
Nope.
we go. We wanted this to be a quick hitter.
Tell us what you think.
Well, that's what we
Yeah.
think. If you guys yeah, what do you guys think of this? Do you care? Most people don't care because there's
Yeah.
the mental health issues, but there's also massive environmental problems. Now, I don't necessarily care about those kinds of things. I'm not into that camp, but so many of you are in the marketing world. I'm supposed to be
Mhm.
environmentally responsible, but then you're all out there making how many Bigfoot videos, so I don't know. I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of problems. Let us know what
Yeah.
you guys think. We appreciate it. Again, if
Yeah.
you're here still,
Let us
thank you
know.
so much for tuning in. A quick hitter this week. We will be back again next week. Maybe not with AI, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, we'll see you guys next week.